Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Post Alex in the 15-minute pool on ICC. Post Alex opens with d4. We got a title player too. This is nice. I'll play knight f6. Let's just check who this is. I wonder. Yeah, this is the guy who I thought it was, Alex Dunne. He writes the correspondence chess column in Chess Life magazine. So I'm going to do something a little funky. You guys ready for this? I'm going to play b6. I've been experimenting with this system involving a double fianchetto against d4 lately, and I think it's kind of interesting, so I'm going to try it. I actually don't know if b6 on move 2 is the best move order technically. Part of me thinks it's not, but yeah, like now I play g6. This is the idea. It's kind of a trendy line, and I don't think it has a name officially. One thing he can try to do to take advantage of this move order is he can try to play queen c2 early and try to go e4. Looks like he's not going to do that. Plays g3. So yeah, I'll just do the standard move here and then castle. And now I'm going to play knight e4 because I don't want him to go queen c2, that move I was talking about, and then push e4. If he were to push e4, that would be bad for me because he's going to crowd me with his center pawns. So, Post Alex, by the way, just looking at his stats, he's played quite a few 15-minute games, over 1,000, and he has a peak rating of 22-22, achieved a couple years back. Yeah, so this is one possible line. They could also have played queen c2 instead of taking on e4. It's possible. I kind of think the better way to potentially get into this opening is with g6 on move 2, like faking a King's Indian or Grunfeld and then doing this. But I don't know. I've just been playing around with this move order. Okay, bishop e3. I have seen this move before. I think the game I saw it with, black played d6. So black is essentially going to treat this like a Nimzo Indian. Is it d6 or e6? I think d6 makes more sense, just to try to come to d7 with the knight. But yeah, black is essentially treating it like a Nimzo Indian. It's just that you have a fianchettoed bishop, which in the Nimzo Indian you never have. So this gives it an offbeat character. I started thinking about this setup more when Varujan Akobian played it against me at the Millionaire Chess Open in Las Vegas in October. So he chose this double fianchetto setup, and I had a real tough time as white proving an advantage. I think I might have got a small advantage, but it wasn't anything special. Okay, so he's going knight g2. We're going to trade bishops. Yeah, no reason not to trade. I assume he's going to take with his knight, is his idea. Now, do I want to go c5 or do I want to just develop my knight? Knight d7 or knight c6. Probably of those two moves, knight d7 makes more sense. I think c5 also is pretty good. Yeah, I'll play c5 because maybe I can annoy him in defending the b2 pawn. I am kind of x-raying that pawn. It's a little more aggressive, and I might have aspirations of putting my knight on c6. Also stops him from playing knight f4, because if he did that, I could take on d4 and then play e5. Okay, so he plays rook c1. What to do now? Knight c6, he's going to play d5, I assume is his idea. And then if I move my knight, he can play b3, for instance. I could just take on d4, and we'll have a pretty banal position. Like a hedgehog sort of position. What if I go knight c6, d5, knight d4? Is that at all troublesome for him? My knight is pretty good on that square, but he can move his bishop and then try to kick it away with e3 is the thing. So who knows if I'm achieving much by doing that? Probably not. I'm just going to play a flexible move. Queen d... am I going to do that? I'm just second-guessing myself for a second here. Queen d7, because if I play queen d7, it makes it more difficult for me to play knight c6, was what gave me pause on that move. Because he might be able to take, and then if b takes, bishop takes c5, and my queen would be undefended on d7. So I don't know if I want to play that. I think he's just going to go queen d2 and rook fd1 over the next couple moves if I allow him to. I think taking on d4 is just so close to equal. I just don't want to do that. You know what I can do? I'll play knight c6. And if he goes d5, I might even go knight e5, is what I'm thinking. Because I think d4, while outwardly attractive, I think my knight is not stable on that square. So hence I sort of like the look of this move. And maybe I can push on the queen side. Maybe I can play a6 and then b5 later. So for a correspondence player, this guy's playing pretty fast. He is a FIDE master, so I'm sure he's pretty good at OTB chess as well. I'd like to play queen d7 and then h3 and then knight g4 and mate him, but that's pretty much a pipe dream in this position. Wonder if he's going to go bishop h6. I think queen d7 is very flexible. Maybe with an eye towards playing b5. Yeah, I like that. And then also if he plays f4, I have knight g4. I am taking away a square from my knight, so I have to make certain that I don't get this piece trapped somehow in the center. You know, it's funny, I also used this system in one of my over-the-board games today. I played a game that went d4, knight f6, knight f3, b6. And I tried to adopt double Fianchetto setup in that game too. That was against international master Sean Nagel in the Minnesota Closed, which is the tournament I'm playing right now. Unfortunately, I did not win that game. I lost. I'm on 2-0 in the tournament, though. I beat Andrew Tang, who's an IM, and then I just beat Kevin Wasiluk, who's an FM. And Sean Nagel is leading the tournament. He has 3 points, 3 out of 3, perfect score. Okay, what to do here? I'm thinking b5. Yeah, b5. Start poking at his queen side. Because if I can trade and then sink my queen into a4, I'm really liking that position then. The queen h3 move it's so nice, but he has knight f4 always as soon as I play that, so kicking my queen out. So it doesn't do much. Okay, I better take... Ooh, if I take, is he going to take on e5? I think he's going to. Because if I could get him to take with his pawn, then queen a4 is looking awesome. But I think his idea is take on c4, and then he's going to take on e5 in between move. Still, though, I think this is good. We'll see how bad he wants to eliminate that knight. He does. Yeah. And I think he's going to take with the rook. This is his plan. And against that, I was thinking a5. We'll just push. He can go rook h4, but I'm not scared of rook h4, queen h6. I mean, if rook h4, I could play bishop h6 if I wanted. Even just bishop g7 would cover everything. So with a5, I'm trying to create a weakness. My pawn is an isolated pawn, so honestly, I'm just trying to push it and get it to a4. That was a good move. I actually didn't see that move, rook a4. Because now if I play rook fb8, he can take on a5. I missed that. Yeah, he might get his knight to c4 now. Because he wants to go knight e3 to c4. I wonder if for that reason I should play bishop d4 now. But if I play bishop d4, he can take on a5. Right? Like, yeah, I got myself in a conundrum here a little bit. Because I really want to stop his knight from getting to c4. If he accomplishes that, his position is very secure. I think that's so important. I'm willing to play this move, even if it loses the a5 pawn. My plan is to go rook takes a5, rook takes a5, queen takes a5, queen b7, which threatens d5 and also threatens rook a8. is what I'm thinking. So I'm now double thinking my decision to play. What was it back here? B takes c4 on move 16. I'm reconsidering that. Yeah, so I should probably take on e3 now. Hate to give up my gorgeous bishop. Must be done, though. I still think I might have a tiny edge here. Well, is he going to swing his rook over to h4? No, that doesn't bug me. Let's do this. So my plan is just to play rook b4. He's playing kind of reactively. I think he's missing some chances, because now I can do this move. And if he plays rook c4, I have queen takes a4 now. This is a nice tactic. The only trouble is it actually good? Because queen takes a4, b takes a4. He has to do that. Then I can take c4, but he wins d6. That's a shame. If he wasn't winning d6, this would be great. That is a shame. What about queen b7 in this position? It would be nice to go for those two rooks. Just doesn't quite do it. If queen b7, he might be able to play queen h6. Because then if I take d5, he has rook h4. It's sort of funny. All right, so what to do in this position? Queen takes a4 doesn't really work. B takes a4, rook takes c4, queen takes e7. I just hate to do that. We both get passed pawns. I have a passed c pawn then, but his passed pawns look more dangerous. His passed e pawn. It's hard to stop. Maybe I should go rook a7. Queen b7, rook h4, h5. What's up with that? Is that bad? I think that's probably okay. Let's do that. He's not playing like the most incisive moves, so I think I'm okay with how I'm treating this position. Maybe I should take a little more care with my king, but that move first. I missed that. Yeah, I was only thinking of rook h4 first. That's like a typical move order problem. Okay, I'm not losing because I can play e5, but I wish I didn't have to deal with this. So what's up here? If I take either rook, he's still getting rook h4 in after he recaptures. So am I going to have to play e5 or e6, something to that effect? It's looking that way. Okay, let's go e5. I'm fortunate to have this defense, so if he goes rook h4, I'm going to play f5. I'm fortunate to have that defense, but, you know. Or I can play f6 too. f6 might be safer. I should probably play f6. If ever he takes my rook on b4, he's probably going to take it with his a rook. Because he doesn't want to allow rook c takes b4, and then c takes b4, and this rook is like stranded on that square. I think my position is fine. Despite missing queen h6 on move 24. My time is not fine, but I'll play faster. We're in a heavy piece ending. I think it's clarifying a little bit. I have some weaknesses. I have one more pawn island than he does. So he could point to that and say that he has an advantage because of that. But okay, so that move he's trying to attack me with h5. It makes sense. Thinking I'll play rook f8. Rook f8 hangs by a pawn though. Maybe queen g7? Just to back him off? Offer a trade? Yeah, let's go queen g7. Just try to back his queen off. If he trades and then takes on b4, I can take that way. That ending is just like very equal, I think. He does not want to trade. Makes sense because, you know, he probably thinks he has an initiative. He's probably right about that too. Okay, so e6 is under attack. e5 I could play. e5 queen d3 though. I have some loose pieces. Let's take a rook. Oh, he can take on e6 in between move. Duh. I totally forgot about that. Alright, so now I'm going to be defending a pawn down endgame if he takes on e6. As soon as I play that move, I realized queen takes e6. Check can be played. Yeah. So I'm going to be defending a pawn down endgame. Let's centralize our king. Yeah, not well played by me. Not at all. I can't activate my rook so easily either. Let's do this. I'm just going to play for some activity.
Check.
I have to do something. Otherwise, he was slowly going to bring his pawns up, his majority on the king side, and also bring his king up. So I'll be lucky to draw this game if I'm able. I'm actually threatening a4 in this position. That's funny. He saw it. He saw my threat. Am I going to have to bring my king over in order to assist freeing up my rook? Yeah, I might have to do that. I hate the fact that this takes so long, but I don't see any other way to free up my king. Or free up my rook, I mean. So I'm just trying to activate it. If I can go like rook d2 to rook d8 to d2, I might be able to play c4. This is what I'm thinking. Maybe get enough counterplay to draw. This is an uphill battle. Okay, let's just take a chance. He is a little ways away from getting a pass pawn, so at least I can take some heart in that. The key to rook endgames is rook activity. You always have to have an active rook. If I were to try to somehow play this ending with my rook sitting on a8, I'm just setting myself up for a loss. Okay, what if I give it check? If I give it check and then I can come over to h3. He has g5. Nah, better go rook d2. So I'm trying to do this c4 move to get a little counterplay. Maybe rook c2 and then c4. Well, it looks like my win streak in 15-minute will be coming to an end. I may not lose this game. I'm hoping I won't, but I'm certainly not going to win, barring some huge mistake by him. Okay, so rook c2 or b2. Let's go to c2. Just to give myself the option of rook c3 check. If he plays f4, I can swing my rook over. Yeah, but his pawn is really fast. He gets a pass pawn just like right away. Such a quick pass pawn. Rook h2, f5. Rook takes h4, f6. That must be winning for him. All right, let's try this guy. This is probably our only chance. You can just play f5, though. Pass pawns must be pushed. So the saying goes. Problem is, if his f-pawn goes, I might not have enough time to draw the position by winning his b-pawn. So I'm going to lose my h-pawn. Is that what he's saying? All right, let's do this. So if he takes h7, I take b3 check. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of pawns. This will still be really tough. I think probably losing. Rook takes h7, take here, check. Let's say king d4. Yeah, then I have to lose some time moving my rook away. Maybe I can go rook g3. Maybe. It's not completely dead yet, but it's getting close. If he changes his mind and goes rook c3, I can go king b4, rook d3, rook takes b3. That race. Does that move instead? Okay. Let's take here.
Check.
Maybe a4 was better. I'm not sure. But if he comes to the fourth rank, I can check him and win his h-pawn. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, he might have made a mistake. Never mind. He can go to that square. Huh. Yeah, this is really tricky.
Check.
So he's going to go to g5.
Check.
Let's give a check here. Just hoping he takes my pawn. He shouldn't. But if king h5, maybe I can go rook f4. Wow. I might still draw this game by some miracle. So I'm trying to win his h-pawn.
Check.
Okay. Well, my chances for a draw just went way up. Let's just play this accurately. Yeah, because now...
Check.
Now probably he's going to bring his king to assist the advance of the f-pawn. I'm going to push my a-pawn. And so long as I don't know, fall into some position where he can like get his rook to block my rook defending, it should be a draw. So yeah, like this is definitely a draw. A3. Let's just bring our king up. It's a draw no matter what, but we'll just bring our king up just because.
Check.
His king is way too far away to help come back. He's going to have to sacrifice his rook at some point. Like rook a7, king b3, king e7, a2, king d6, king b2, draw. Okay. The only way you can get in trouble here is if you try to march your pawn way far in front of your king. Yeah, he offered a draw, so I'll take it. Oh, interesting endgame. I lost 12 points that game, but it was instructive. Saved a bad endgame. Yeah, some sloppy play by me in the middle game. I'll go back and take a look at it. So, as I said, g6 might be the better move order in order to get into this double fianchetto. But, I don't know. I mean, actually, if they play knight c3, you really can't do it because bishop g7 will be allowing a king's Indian, and b6 now can't do this. It works best against move orders with knight f3, honestly. Like a lot of times, this double fianchetto system is reached via knight f3, knight f6, c4, and then b6. So this is how actually my game with Akobian went. So c4, b6, knight c3, bishop b7, knight f3. Yeah, I think a critical move or try for an advantage would be queen c2 in this position, just to try to go e4 as soon as possible. And then I could play like c5 or b5 or c5 or d5 if I want to influence the center, but he just played pretty normal moves. Like he opted for a fianchetto of his own on the king side, and yeah, this position is like a tabia for this line. Most often I've seen queen c2 here. I think knight takes e4 is like not dangerous for black. Yeah, d6 just looks pretty equal. Yeah, I could take on d4 if I wanted, but I think knight c6 is fine too. Let's just see. Yeah, computer approves of my play. Knight c6, d5, knight e5. Because as I was saying, the d4 square, while pretty good looking, he just plays bishop d2, and then he's going to play e3 and eject my knight from that beautiful outpost square. So it's nothing special. So I think I slightly prefer the e5 square. And queen d7, played b3. Seems like this is okay. b5. Yeah, and I had to exercise more patience here. I have to give this in-between move more respect, it seems. So a5. Doesn't a5 like allow a similar idea, though? Take, queen takes, take here. Bishop takes, knight e3. Because this is a scenario I was worried about, him getting his knight here. But, okay, so since he doesn't have his rook up here helping to protect the a4 square, I can do this. This is the whole reason I played a5, a4. Often, if you have an isolated pawn like that, this is a mini minority attack, basically, when I'm playing a5. If we discount these pawns, which are going to get traded. I'm trying to play a4 and provoke a weakness. And especially in this position, I don't want my a pawn to stick around for too long. I'd much rather go a5, a4, transform it, trade it for his pawn on b3, and make him have a weakness. So that's why I'm playing a5. It just seems, yeah, this was a nice idea. Rook a4 and then knight e3, knight c4. I guess he can take the pawn, and I was intending this, and then queen d7, attacking that. It did cross my mind, though, he can play queen d2, because if I take here, I lose to e3 with the pin on the bishop. So, queen f5 is interesting. Okay, let's see Engine's suggestion in this position. Yeah, that's a better way of attacking this pawn. And now if queen d2, I assume rook a8. And it's a little hard for him to move because he can't move this rook because I wouldn't have to. So maybe black has compensation in this position. It's interesting. So he played knight e3. And we traded. Rook fb8. Here. Yeah, this move looks like a mistake. I wonder if he saw queen takes a4. It just so happens queen takes a4 doesn't give me much. Because he wins d6 and, yeah, I don't know. I get a pass c-pawn, but his d-pawn with his queen. See, when you're trying to evaluate a queen versus two rooks position, it usually revolves around how many pawn targets there are in the resulting position. If the side with the rooks has a bunch of secure pawns and the queen has a hard time attacking them, then the position usually favors the rooks. But if the queen is able to like kind of roam around and pick off pawns and probe here and there, and also if the rooks are disconnected, as in this case, then the queen has no problems. So that's why I didn't go for this line. I see the engine thinks it's like somehow equal, but yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. I'm not comfortable with my rooks being disconnected like this for the moment. Maybe they get connected pretty soon, but yeah, his d6 pawn is a little bit more of an annoyance than my a and c pawns. If I had more time, maybe I would have looked into that further, but... So I played queen b7. Yeah, queen h6 was nice. Oh, I can take on d5? Oh, wow. Yeah, the engine suggests something pretty radical. It says take the pawn on d5, allow this, and then just calmly play e5, allowing him to take on h7. Because, you know what, guys? We've got our rook defended on a8. Big deal. You know, what is white going to do? Yeah, that looks a little scary. I mean, seeing it here with the engine quietly humming in the background, then it looks fine. But during the game, I was kind of shell-shocked by this queen h6 move. At first, I thought I was losing. I thought there was no way to defend this pawn, but then I realized I can do this. The only problem is now I have some loose pawns. You know, I have one more pawn island than he does. Probably gives him a small advantage. Queen d5. Okay, queen d5 would have been a good move. Centralization. That protects this little basket of pawns right here and also stops him from playing h5 because I can take on h5. The move he played, h4, is a real typical way to try to undermine your opponent's position. He's making a probing move. I talked about this in my last game with Bio in the 15-minute pool as well. H4 does two things. It's solving his back rank issue and allowing him to probe my weak king side. Queen g7 might be inaccurate. Yeah, and this certainly is inaccurate. I'm actually quite a bit worse now. So queen g7. You know, even though queen b7 is not a mistake, I still consider it a mistake just because of how the game went after this move. And that I had to play e5, I had to deviate from what I wanted to do. And I had to find some precise move in order to maintain equality. Okay, so after this,
Check.
So the reason why I am going for the queen ending is because if I play king h8 and he takes here, there's too many pawn targets, and my king is too open. So I feel, paradoxically, even though I'm losing a pawn, I feel my chances will be better in the pure rook endgame, because I don't have to worry about my loose pawns as much, and I have an active king, a more active king than his at least. I feel this endgame should be won for white, but it's a little tricky. With the time situation, I'm very happy to have held this endgame. Okay, so here the engine doesn't like my move. d5. a4 would have been interesting. I didn't consider a4. Ah, he can just take it. Okay. Yeah, because his king is in the box. My c-pawn is not going to run. Okay. Yeah, so now that we're in this rook ending, it's kind of a good point to assess. But basically, my only chance to hold this position down a pawn is if I activate my rook. Also, I'm going to need an active king. I need active everything. You know, you're down a pawn in a rook endgame. You better be playing actively. You're not going to hold many games playing passively. Some theoretical positions you can hold with passive defense, but those are few and far between. Activity is always the best policy in the rook endgames, whether you're playing for a win or a draw. So d5, yeah, I was wondering about rook takes c5, because then he has a majority on the queen side. He probably didn't like the look of this position, but it's still tough for me. Yeah, rook a4, because if he brings rook to a4, then always b4 is a threat. Oh yeah, that looks losing for me. the engine's top line is now rook a7, b4, king c4. Yeah, this is a loss. Surprised the engine's even giving me this much. Okay. Well, he played e takes d5 pretty fast,
Check.
I think. Yeah, 4 seconds, but rook takes c5 deserved attention.
Check.
He probably thought he was just going to go over here and like put the brakes on my a pawn. And again, I have to do this and this. I can't break the 4th rank threshold, so I need to play for activity, and I have to do that by bringing my king over to free up my rook. It's an unfortunate necessity. He starts pushing his kingside pawns. Okay, so if he focused more on just pushing them, again, it's tough for me. Yeah, those pawns run pretty quickly. Rook d2 check, let's say. Let's say I do this c4 move. This is like my only source of counterplay. Take, take. This is similar to the game. Yeah, I should be winning, though. Take, take. Let's say rook a3, rook c3. If a4, I guess he can just... Or, yeah, he can just take with check, actually. So first I need to play this. You know what's funny in this position? He can almost just play this. Yeah, he can. Take, and then f7. I can't stop his pawn. If rook here, probably king g2. Does that win? And then check and then go here. Yeah, that wins. Strength of that pass pawn, that passed f pawn. Yeah. Okay, so a couple accurate moves here or there would have won him this one. He doesn't need to bring his king up yet. He can just push his pawns. The king f3 looks like a pretty decent sized mistake. I still feel it's winning for him. c4. He took, I took. Yeah, again, f5. I think I would have been more worried about that move. Let's say take and take. Let's say rook b2, rook here, king c3. That's funny. Again, he can play this f6 move. Take in here. Yeah, so that's a win. Even king b4. Does this? Yeah, this should win too, because after it takes, he can just take and then run the pawn. I'm 1 tempo behind in the pawn race. No, 2 tempos actually. Well, 1 tempo. Yeah. So what was the moment that really threw the game away for him, or threw the win away for him? Rook c7, rook a3, f5, take, take, take here, check. King g3 is more sophisticated, but this eval, I don't know. I don't know. I sort of think I might have a draw at this point. Because if he goes king e5, he loses his pawn. King g5 is met by h6, as in the game. In king g3, I can start checking him. And his king doesn't have good places to run. Because at some point, if he's going to make progress, he's got to cross into the 5th rank. Or maybe through this route. But he'll always be losing that h-pawn.
Check.
h6. Yeah, that seems to be drawing for me. I wonder if he can go here, check. Here, check, and an idea of this move. Because now I haven't been able to play h6 with check yet. So if I play rook f4, he can play king g5 with tempo. Yeah, and my pawn's not on h6, so I'm not stopping him from doing that. Rook f1. This is still close, though. Because if this pawn survives, my chances are better to hold. Still, though, might be losing, huh? You can go make a break for this pawn. Yeah, this is probably losing. So maybe he needs a fancy route with his king. Yeah, the win is getting tougher. He needs to come to h5. The game route won't do it. He just went simply for g5. He didn't have an option to go king h5. But then I get
Check.
h6 in. And if here, then rook f4 I think is holding. Because after rook f7 he's kind of stuck. I push a4, and if he ever takes my pawn or plays king g6, I take on h4. So he's kind of stuck. If f6, a3, yeah, rook f8, a2. Yeah, there's nothing to do for him. Rook a8. I could take on f6. This is probably still a draw, even though his king is much better. But yeah, that's a good point that the engine points out I have this move. Rook takes a4, king takes a4, f7, a1 here. Probable draw, although he's going to win a pawn. Okay. So king takes, yeah, no, this is drawn in more ways than one. So as I was kind of alluding to, the only way you can possibly mess up a position like this is if you allow, let's just say for the sake of argument, he goes here. What did he play in the game?
Check.
He just queened in the game. If he went here, and I like played a3, I guess this is still a draw technically, but sometimes they can do this and interpose, like build a little bridge between your rook and the pawn. This is still a draw because I could even... Oh, actually, no, I can't do this because he queens with a check. Aha. I can play rook g1, though. I can still draw. That's funny. Because his king is like caught in a column. Yeah, if king h6, check. Say king g5, rook h8 I have. Aha. That's pretty funny. But that's just illustrating this idea that sometimes you have to watch out for stuff like this. So I would have just sacrificed right away and then pushed. And he's far too distant with his king to have his king come back and help out. Okay.
Check.
So, instructive ending. Hopefully this ending highlights rook activity in rook endgames. That's the #1 rule. Whether you're playing for a win or whether you're playing for a draw, it's always best to operate with an active rook. Doubly so if you're playing a draw. I mean, in many positions in rook endings, it's correct to sacrifice a pawn or two if you're at a disadvantage in order to activate your rook, or both your rooks if it's a double rook endgame, as opposed to playing passively and trying to hold on. That's a surefire recipe to lose. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be back tomorrow with another standard game. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.